welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're revisiting our Creeping Crust Cobbler recipe because we were just on Talk Pittsburgh making our Creeping Crust Cobbler for National Raspberry Day. And in listening to the previous episode, it was episode 21, and I think we were using a snowball mic. So we thought we would, revisit it, and I kind of tweaked it a little bit, and I'm adding a little bit of information and stuff. So we're going to do it again. This is a great cobbler. It's so neat because it is exactly what it says. You kind of do it the reverse of a normal cobbler. You put the fruit on top of the batter, and then the batter creeps up around the berries and encloses them in a delicious, crispy, sweet. I can't even, you have to make it. You'll just have to make it. But it's a really, really good cobbler. And this is a very old recipe. So this would have been known as a pudding, I would say, in the 1800s, early 1900s. People made these and they called them a pudding because they're a little bit wobbly. When you make them, they're softer texture. They were crispy around the outside edge and a little bit soft in the middle. And in North America and also in Europe, raspberries are incredibly plentiful. And they're a wonderful thing because they're high in vitamin C, high in antioxidants. They're really good for you. So they were probably a lifesaver in the olden days, because it gave people a source of vitamin C, which was difficult to get in Europe and North America. And, you could do a lot of things with them in addition to just eating them, which is, of course, the best thing to do. But you could put them in pies and cakes and things like that. So the pudding was sort of like, and is still today as the cobbler, it's just something real quick that you can do. Mix up some, flour and sugar and milk and berries and bake it with some fat in there. And it, makes this delicious dessert. So that's the history of this type of a cobbler. I'm sure someone said at one point in time, there has to be a better name for this than a pudding. So they came up with this creative name. I first found this recipe when a friend bought me a cookbook that is called the Very Berry Cookbook, and it has strawberry, raspberry, and blueberry recipes in it. And it's like the best cookbook that I have ever gotten. I think I've made almost everything in it. It has a lot of wonderful recipes and has a lot of raspberry recipes. So this was one of the raspberry recipes, and this thing is the perfect vehicle for raspberries. It's great with any sort of berries, cherries, peaches. I've done it with rhubarb. Great with that sort of thing. You can use canned fruit, frozen fruit. I don't recommend pie filling, but canned or frozen fruit works well. So any kind of a substitution you need to make, this thing is so forgiving. And one of the really nice things that I like about this is it's very easy to make this dairy-free / vegan because you just use plant butter instead of actual butter, and you use whatever type of milk you like. We usually use almond milk. You could even use a flour substitute like Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 in this to make it gluten-free. This is such a forgiving and wonderful dessert that it's one that you should just keep in your recipe file. My little Very Berry cookbook is generally left open to this page, and this page is a very funny color, and the rest of the pages are sort of like off-white. It gets a lot of mileage. I still have to look at it because I can't remember what I'm doing. And typically I don't even follow my own recipes half the time either. So I make them wrong. I make a mistake. But this is very popular in our house. I've actually made this week 4 of them because I was prepping for being on Talk Pittsburgh. I wanted to make sure that I was doing it right and it was coming out right and everything. So I made more than that. I made 2 practice ones, a regular and a vegan one, and then I made 2 while I was at Talk Pittsburgh, and then I just made one now right before we podcasted because I had to use up the extra raspberries. I had all these extra raspberries, so anywho, there we are, 5. So I got a nice warm one at home right now. I was thinking you might be able to substitute maple syrup for the sugar, but I don't know because that would be a lot of maple syrup.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Well, but my thought was, like, if you did that, then instead of berries, you would put in little bits of breakfast sausage. And then it would be like a little like a breakfast sort of a casserole kind of a thing. I'm trying that.
All right, next holiday brunch, we'll be back.
Creeping crust sausage pie. That's what it would be. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Oh, it might be good though. So this is the Creeping Crust Cobbler recipe. We have a recipe card for this. Beautiful recipe card by Anna Mack. We'll be sharing that. We also just had that in our newsletter. If you'd like to follow our newsletter at Mary Mac Bakehouse, you can sign up on our website, marymacbakehouse.com, and you get a recipe like every couple of weeks. You get a new recipe with a recipe card that you could, if you want to, print and cut out and put it into a recipe file, or you can save it as a PDF into your computer recipe file.
And they're also just on our website as a blog. So if you don't want to download it or print it out, you can just bookmark the page or, use the search function on the website and they should all pop up.
We have so many ways.
So many ways. We are all over the internet.
We are. We have total coverage.
Well, like, we're not on TikTok because...
No. Too much. It's too much.
No, we don't want to. It's too much work.
We don't want to do it.
Nope.
So here we go. Creeping Crust Cobbler. This recipe calls for 2 cups of fruit. That would be 2 cups of raspberries, rinsed and drained. You can use black raspberries, blackberries. You can also use blueberries, like we said. Peeled and cut up peaches can be used, or nectarines, or any sort of a soft fruit like that. I don't know about apples. I think apples would probably not be good. Cherries work very well in this. Whatever your imagination leads you. You can even mix the berries if you want to, which would be very good. So while we're on the raspberry part, I wanted to just remind everyone, when you wash raspberries, what you want to do is put the raspberries into a bowl of cold water and swirl them around with your hand and then lift them out into a colander, because raspberries have all those little bumps on them. Plus, they're like a little cup, they pop off of the core. And when you have the berry, you could actually put the berry on your fingertip and eat it, which is a lot of fun. So, but when you wash them, you don't want to leave them soak in water, and you don't want to just rinse them, under running water in a colander, because you're not going to clean them. But if you put them into a bowl and swirl them around with your hand and scoop them out, you'll get anything like little bits of leaf or little bits of dirt or little insects or whatever will come off. And it's a really good way to clean them. So that's your berry washing tip. And I do that with strawberries, blueberries, anything, because it's just better than, it gets them cleaner than just rinsing them in a colander. And after you've rinsed and drained them, you can pat them. What I like to do is lay them out like on paper toweling and then tap them on the top with another paper towel just to dry them off. And then just let them sit while you're getting your other stuff ready. Now, you need a 1/2 cup of butter, and that can be regular butter, margarine, or plant butter, and that's going to be melted in your baking dish. You need 1 cup of all-purpose flour, or like I said, 1 cup of Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1. You need 1 cup of white or raw sugar. You need 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You need a 1/2 cup of milk. Any type of milk works, from whole milk to skim milk to plant milk. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract is a really nice extra touch in this. You want to bake this in a deep-sided dish, like an 8x8 or a 9x9 or a 9x8, which is what I have. I have these 9x8 Pyrex dishes that work great for this kind of stuff. So that's what you need. And it can be even round, like a round glass cake dish or a round glass baking dish or a square dish. I like to use glass for this because you can see the raspberries through it, and I think it makes it a little extra touch there. So you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. And here's how you can melt your butter. You can put your butter, cut it up into like tablespoon-sized pieces, put it in, you can set your dish in the oven while the oven's preheating and melt the butter. Or you can melt it in the microwave, which will take you about, I usually do like 10 or 15 second increments, maybe like 2 or 3 times to get it to melt. But you want your butter to be nicely melted. So now, once your butter is ready, be careful because your dish will be hot. When your butter is melted, you can set that in your prep area. Now you want to mix your flour, sugar, and baking powder up really well in your bowl. Then add your milk and mix until it's nice and smooth. And this will be a kind of a thicker batter. Add your half teaspoon of vanilla and stir that in. And you want to take your batter and drop it by heaping serving spoons on top of the melted butter in your dish until you use up all the batter. And you want to just plop it all around in there. Now, sprinkle the top with your berries or fruit, and try not to use more than 2 cups of anything. I often do use more than 2 cups, and it's usually a disaster because it's just too much fruit. So just sprinkle your berries on top and make sure they're spread out real nice, and that'll just about cover the entire top. Then put that in the oven and bake it for 30 to 45 minutes. The last couple times I have made one of these, if things are cold, it takes longer to bake. So it's better if your fruit is at room temperature and your milk is at room temperature. But if it's not, don't worry about it. It just takes longer. And you want to bake it until the top is nicely golden brown. So sometimes I've had it take even 50 minutes to get to that point. Make sure that it's not wiggly at all in the middle. Bake it until it's nice and brown. And take it out of the oven and let that cool just a little bit. You want to serve it warm, but not blistering hot, okay? And this is so good with ice cream or whipped cream, or you could even put it in a bowl and pour milk over the top. It's such a good cobbler. And it's just one of our favorites. It's one of our favorite desserts in general. I hope you get a chance to give this a try during raspberry season, which is only going to be lasting until about the 20th or so of July. So you want to make sure you get to the farmer's market or to your local farm stand and get some fresh raspberries and make yourself a nice cobbler. This is also a nice dish to do with kids because there's a lot of jobs here. You can stir, you can plop the batter onto the butter, you can put the berries on top. Although you should probably have extra berries because, people do eat them when they're helping you. So make sure you do that. But, this is a good recipe, and it's a good classic recipe to keep on file for any time of the year. So I hope you like it, and I just want to say again, thank you so much to everyone at Talk Pittsburgh, Heather Abraham and Alante, and just thank you so much for having us on. We really love coming. We love to do the show, and we always have a fun time down there. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Let me know if you make it.
And make sure to check us out online on Facebook and Threads at Mary Mac Bakehouse, on Instagram at Mary Mac Podcast and Mary Mac Bakehouse, and on our website, marymacbakehouse.com.
Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.